Michael Boyle's StrengthCoach.com presents the Strength Coach Podcast, brought to you by Perform Better, the experts in functional training and rehabilitation. PerformBetter.com.
All right, hey everybody, welcome to episode 240 of the Strength Coach Podcast, the official podcast of Michael Boyle's StrengthCoach.com, the world's best source for strength and conditioning information, brought to you by Perform Better, the experts in functional training and rehabilitation, PerformBetter.com. All right, I'm your host, Anthony Aranda. The show notes are located on my site at ContinueFit.com. For the Coach's Corner, I spoke with Coach Boyle about his response to the 14 exercises you should never do over 50. A lot of controversy about that article. We talked about a forum post called Using the Leg Extension Machine for ACL Recovery and an article he wrote called Learning to Speak Coach. For the Results Fitness University Business and Fitness segment, Alwyn Cosgrove is on to talk about making the most of the fourth quarter. Guys, there's a lot left in this quarter. You can do it. For the Functional Movement System segment, Lee Burton finishes his two-part series. Today he discusses how the FMS, Functional Movement Systems, have evolved regarding research and data. Last time he talked all about the research and data. All right, for the MariGold Bars, Hit the Gym with the Strength Coach segment, we have something a little bit different because we have another sponsor, TrainHeroic, on Ben Crookston, who's the CEO and founder of TrainHeroic. I wanted to get Ben on to talk about online training because I truly believe if you're not using this technology to either add value or add revenue, you're missing out on a big opportunity. So I got Ben on. We're talking about everything online training, how TrainHeroic got started, making a bigger impact in the industry, creating an experience for people, the different offerings of using technology, using it in a team setting and best practices, which is important for so many of our listeners, and the Readiness feature. And this is the MariGold Bars Hit the Gym with the Strength Coach segment. It's kind of funny, two sponsors in one. But remember, MariGold Bars, my favorite bar. I have one every day, sometimes two. And they're really good bars, low sugar and non-GMO, gluten-free. You got to keep them in the fridge because there's nothing in them. There's no preservatives. So you can use the code StrengthCoach10. You get $10 off your first order. Guys, check them out. You'll love them, I promise. All right, lots of things to get to. So let's get on the phone with Coach Boyle. All right, now it's time for the StrengthCoach.com Coach's Corner with Coach Boyle. StrengthCoach.com, the world's best source for strength and conditioning information. You can try StrengthCoach.com out for 3 days. Just $1, you'll have access to all the articles, videos, and programs, as well as what we consider the best forum on the net. It's the only place to have full access to Coach Boyle. He's on every day, just checking it out and making sure he's answering everything. And you can go to StrengthCoach.com to try the trial for that. $1, 3 days. Coach, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
All right, loving it. Just a side note on that, I just retweeted something that I thought was cool. Like, you know, when it's always cool when the members do something on their own, but somebody had written, what I like most about StrengthCoach.com is that we challenge each other's ideas in a constructive way without resorting to insulting each other. I thought that was cool. You might not have saw that at first because he tagged Body by Boyle and not Mike Boyle, but really the best part of the forum.
Yes, I would agree. But there's so many good things about the forum, really.
Yeah.
In terms of, I don't know. We've said this before. I mean, the forum has literally made people. Mm-hmm. When I didn't know, Patrick Ward. I didn't know Charlie Weingroff. I didn't know some of these guys, and then their contributions made me stand up and take notice of them and say, wow, these guys are smart. Who are these guys? These are guys I need to meet. And I think that to me is maybe the best part of the forum, that there's somebody out there. Like, I'm going to have Barry Masterman, I think, come and talk nutrition to our staff someday.
Yeah, wow.
Because he's really into this sort of holistic nutrition thing, and he sent me a presentation that he did, and I said, gee, this would be great for the staff. Would you want to come over someday? Because he's a Boston guy. He's not far from us.
Yeah.
And do that presentation. And I just think there's so many kind of synergies that can come out of a thing like this. And I don't get, a site, I don't even like to call it a site because it's almost like it's an entity. It kind of lives a little bit.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's funny. I saw Adam Virgili last night over at the Ranger Islander game, and I had him come over. Adam works for the Rangers, and he's been really just such a great contributor to the site. But he's another one. He's a young guy, and I was thanking him for so many contributions on the forum and like some of the stuff that he's doing. But you're right. It does. There are so many people like that like even Dewey Nielsen, Jonathan Shainberg, Dave Tenney, Sean Skane, all these guys that have, and guys now like Tim Karen or Miguel Salza or Matt Sinishalshi, like from Philadelphia. I mean, there's so many people. Devin McConnell, forget it. I mean, how many contributions he has, and then things come out of it. Like Ray Tucker posted a link to an article that 14 exercises that you should modify if you're over 50. And you had a nice response to that. I'll just give everybody a little bit of an overview. They basically picked a bunch of things that you shouldn't do when you get over 50, which kind of offends me. I'm 51, and like running stairs, I live on the 25th floor. I don't run up them all the time, but I do use it as like part of my workout. I do get what they're saying. Look, if you're 75, I don't want you going up the stairs because if something happens, in your emergency stairwell, no one's going to know you're there. And if you do fall, but not when you're 50, 51 is the new, 32, I think. But Bikram yoga or hot yoga, I get what they're saying. I was kind of surprised about this, but they're talking about, look, you might get dizzy. High interval intensity training, which again is a little crazy depending on what I felt like a lot of these things were similar to the pregnancy recommendation. Look, if you're already working out and you get pregnant, cool, keep going. But if you never worked out before, don't try to all of a sudden work out while you're pregnant. Give us your overview of this article.
Yeah, well, I think the difference was in general, it was a pretty good common sense piece. Mm-hmm. Should the average 50-year-old adult be doing back squats? Because I think that's what, when they say squats, I don't think people aren't thinking, should they not do a bodyweight squat? Because he even said, if you read it, he said bodyweight squats are great.
Yeah.
And so it's sort of the heavy stuff that he's cautioning against, the same way with deadlifting. And it's amazing because there's been a huge kind of rattle on the internet because of that. With people, I saw somebody the other day, how does somebody get their suitcase in the overhead compartment? How do they do this? How do they do that? And it's like, that's not really what the article said. If you read the article, and that was why I kind of wrote the response, if you really look at it, yeah, you want to be able to bodyweight squat, but we always talk about this. You get to a certain point, hey, when you can goblet squat a 100-pound dumbbell, you probably want to go to split squats. Because, now you start thinking about, you go from developing usable strength to potentially developing a back problem. And so in the same way with deadlift, I always say, does grandma need to deadlift, 2.25? No, I don't think she does. But do I want her to be able to pick the heaviest kettlebell up off the ground in a sumo deadlift? Yes. So I think it was a very generic kind of health and fitness type of article.
Yeah.
That really was good. I mean, the only thing I would even contest to some degree was the push-up thing. I think if people can do push-ups, let them. As long as it doesn't bother their shoulders, it's fine. But even chin-ups, and I've said this before, I've said it at a million talks, most adults can't lift their arms up over their head. They can't get to the position where you would start doing a chin-up, which means if they can't get there and they hang from the bar, they're going to be forced into that position, and it won't be good. And, so we tend to do more pull-downs, X pull-downs, things like that, W pull-downs, whatever, and then lots of ring rows, because you're just it's a more shoulder-friendly position. All of this stuff actually is leading me. I've been kind of going back and forth with Larry Draper the last week. I may do an adult fitness book, like functional training for active adults or something like that, because I think between the book, Dave Bankston, Bat Banger on the forum, had recommended that book, I don't know, Fit After 50 or something. I forget what the name of it was, but it was basically he said, the initial medical stuff, the guy's an emergency room doc, makes a great case for why you should weight train, and then he proceeds to recommend like the RIPTO program of powerlifting. And it's like, we're so missing the mark with our adults in terms of just trying, okay, let's just find a nice reasonable series of things. And I think obviously that's probably kind of my wheelhouse a little bit in terms of being able to say, okay, here's things from an adult standpoint that are going to make sense, and putting them in the same kind of categories that we did in functional training for sports in terms of upper push and upper pull and knee dominant and hip dominant. And okay, what would we do with that kind of, I don't know, 40 to 70 person who we want to get doing some strength work? But the book is called The Barbell Prescription. And I said it's like a book on hangnails that then recommends that you chop your finger off. You know what I mean? It's just, the solution doesn't relate really well to the problem. The problem, adults need more strength. Yes, all these things, sarcopenia, there's all this stuff, loss of power. And then the answer is powerlifting, squat, bench, press, deadlift. It's like, oh my God, what a ridiculous oversimplification of an answer to a really complex question.
Yeah, and I think, taking it back to strength coaches is like, the bottom line is, these blanket statements sometimes are what get people a little crazy, because I think, there are, if there might be some young people that can't do pull-ups right now. So like, don't just do everything with everybody. And I think that's why CSFC has gotten, has really done a great job in terms of, look, there's progressions. Yeah, we want to get you there, but look, let's back you up 3 steps and we'll try to get you there. And I think it's a similar situation with the adults.
And it is. And I think the other thing too is people talk about the kind of clickbait idea. If you want people to read the article, then say don't, or never, or always, or the secret, or, there's all those headlines that, someone can send you out a list of blog headlines guaranteed to get hits. And that was one, and it did. It probably generated a lot of views for that guy.
Well, no. By the way, the Ray's article, the one that was called 14 exercises you should modify if you're over 50. Right. So I guess people said, took it as you should never do these. That was the news program linking to this. It was like, you should never do these exercises. So it was like clickbait to an article that really wasn't using 14 exercises that you should modify is a perfectly good title, not never.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, and I think that's where, again, people, and it was funny because even, oh my God, was Cass Barrett, Instagrammed like, oh, this is terrible. A bunch of people, and these are people that I respect, but I look at it and think, I don't, let's read the article and let's kind of take this with a grain of salt and let's think about this and ask yourself, okay, it's sort of the kind of sliding scale thing, disagree, agree, strongly disagree. Yeah. You got to kind of look at it. Like, I looked at that article and I said, I'm kind of in the agree. I'm not at strongly agree, but I'm definitely not at disagree. And I would think if someone said, in general, do you think that this is reasonably accurate? I'd be like, yeah, in general, I'd say it's reasonably accurate.
All right. Your next article is 14 better choices for the 14 articles, for the 14 exercises. Coach, let's go on to, I don't want to say devil's advocate, but there was a post using the leg extension machine for ACL recovery. Now, you were saying your response was, this is a classic functional anatomy, functional training question. When is the quadricep ever in isolation, and when is the leg ever extended from a seated position in some type of chair in sport? Now, I feel like we need to take a step back because we're taking it out of context. I mean, this could be ACL recovery like right after, or not right after, but at least there might be a place in time, right? Can't the leg extension machine at least strengthen the quadricep, even if it's in isolation? Yeah, isn't that okay?
It can strengthen the quadricep. Yes, absolutely, positively, it can. I just think that there's 100 better choices, and that I think you could look at the leg press could do it too, but I would never do that either. Mm-hmm. And the leg extension falls in that same category to me in terms of yes, it could, but it probably shouldn't. And when you actually, the thing that I remember, and this is what people forget, this whole leg extension thing went by the boards years ago, 20 years ago, whatever, because they realized, and this was going back to the Cybex machines and the Orthotrons, that there was a huge shear force produced at the knee from doing leg extensions, and they were particularly bad for ACLs.
Okay.
And in general, bad for patellofemoral joints. So it was sort of one of those things where, and this is where we get into, kind of split squat and Charlie talking about vertical tibia and a lot of these things, because the reality is when you really study the kind of biomechanics of the knee joint, you realize that a leg extension is not a very good choice. And in fact, it's probably a bad choice for just about everybody. There's almost nobody that you could look at and say, this is a good idea. And I just went through it. I had an argument with one of Bob Alejo's guys on Twitter the other day because I posted on Twitter basically that same thing in a totally different conversation. And I basically, he literally was like, the quad, like the quad doesn't extend the knee, ? And I was like, no, it does not. There is no such thing. There's no knee extension. There's no knee flexion. There's like foot in contact with the ground, eccentrically contracting to prevent flexion, foot in contact with the ground, concentrically contracting to produce extension, and no joint ever moves by itself. If I go to move, I'm moving my ankle, my knee, and my hip, and a bunch of other things, but those three predominantly, and they're moving in concert. They're not moving. It's not like the quad suddenly extends the knee, and then the glute miraculously extends the hip as you're doing that, and then all of a sudden, like your plantar flexors kick in, and you get up on your toe. That's not what happens. And in much the same way, when you get into swing leg mechanics in terms of running, you're not bringing your heel up towards your butt. You're actually probably preventing your heel from going away from your butt. So suddenly that hamstring muscle becomes very much an eccentric muscle that's controlling or decelerating the swing leg of the shank. So, keeping the tibia from flying out on you. And so I think that's the stuff when people really don't understand anatomy, they try to justify machines. And then once they really learn functional anatomy, they kind of go, oh, I get it now. I see why you would want to do that. So that's a really long answer. But as I said, I think to me, in my world, there's never a reason. And I have had that argument with lots of good physical therapists. And I said that the physical therapists that will tend to recommend leg extensions will tend to be in their 50s or older. And we'll have a little bit of leftover affinity for that exercise from their earlier days. Whereas the younger PTs, which was what really surprised me, Bob's guy, Eric, is a younger guy, and I don't know where he went to school, but I still like when I said, and it's like, what's his name? Spina has the same expression that I use all the time. They teach dead person anatomy. And what we need to learn is live person anatomy. And we can get quad strength and get quad size without having to isolate that movement at the joint.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think part of it is some of the older guys justifying that they don't want to take that the leg extension machine out of the.
Yeah, and it's one of those, it goes back to the things that I talk about all the time in my talks. Why can't we do what we've always done? Why do we have to change? Why can't we've been doing these for years. Why can't we just keep doing them? And I feel like a lot of times that runs in the face of science. And that's not what we want.
Yeah, absolutely. Coach, you wrote an article, Learning to Speak Soccer, Coach. And, years ago you wrote the article, Learning to Speak, Coach. One of the things I wanted to question you on was you said a lot of the soccer coaches are famous for wanting everything to be done with the ball. It's running without the ball is viewed as a waste of time and is reserved for jogging in warm-ups. Sprints without a ball are also viewed as a waste of time. You're not saying don't ever do those drills, right? Because you don't really say that in there. You're just saying, like, look, there's also a lot of value to sprints without the ball.
Yes, exactly. That's my thing, is that you want them to sprint without the ball because the larger percentage of the game is actually spent chasing the ball or the person with the ball. And the way to get faster, and I don't know if I said it in the article or not, but I always feel like the ball functions as a governor, like a car, saying, okay, you can only go as fast as you can control the ball. And some people in soccer would say that's the way the game's supposed to be played. You can only go as fast as you can control the ball. But the reality is the great, if you watch, you watch Salah play for Liverpool, and when you see the ability to time and run under a pass and time it just so you're going to blow by somebody right without being offside and beat that guy to the ball, that's just raw speed. And you need that. That's a really important quantity in the game of soccer that is not trained often enough. And I was thankful that Michelle Collins actually had sent me that article, about, I have guys, that want sport specific, soccer specific stuff. And it made me realize, okay, I wrote actually both of those articles based on her questions and said, hey, this is a great way to kind of create some content.
Yeah, that was my next question really quick was sport-specific speed. I'm going to go to hockey, obviously, but, if we're sprinting in hockey, we have like a 45-degree angle that we're pushing off. So sprinting in the gym is obviously going to be in the sagittal plane. And I know we're obviously building those qualities, we want to build strength, et cetera. But wouldn't there be some value to almost like, making sure that we're sprinting in the actual hockey, in the skating stride?
Oh, yeah. I don't think there's any question. I think that's one of the things that people in hockey do really, really poorly. If I was coaching hockey right now, we'd be doing our Tony Holler stuff right on the ice. In terms of we'd be doing whether it was not tens, but, goal to blue line or something like that and timing it. And then we'd be timing, flying, whatever, blue line to midline kind of stuff or blue to blue, something like, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like I'd be following the exact same thought process as Tony's following on ice. And I need to get that across to more people because you're right. There is absolutely a specificity effect. Although the good thing is one of the things that the research has shown, if you talk to a guy like Adam, who you talked about, the first couple of strides in skating are very, very similar to the first couple of strides in running because you can't go to the side. You go more straight back in your first 3 or 4 strides, and it becomes gradually more lateral as you gain speed. So you get some great carryover from land sprinting, but it's not enough.
Yeah. Okay. Good stuff. All right, Coach. Well, we'll leave you on that note. Thank you. Good luck on your trip to Bemidji for the Clarkson opening weekend. So have fun.
Good. Thanks, Dan. Hopefully we go 2-0.
All right, guys. Hey, right now at Perform Better, they got free shipping on any order over $59. Lots of things that are on sale right now, plus the free shipping on the orders over $59. Check it out. Also, at the Perform Better Functional Training Institute, got a couple events coming up on October 25th to 27th, Thomas Plummer Speaker School. That's a must attend. Also a must attend if you are planning on opening a gym. Besides watching Strength Coach TV, you should go to the Startup School on November 10th. Go to performbetter.com for all their products and info on their educational seminars.
Hey guys, this is Lee Burton. Welcome to the Functional Movement Systems segment. Today I'm going to kind of do a follow-up on my segment I did last week on research and really focus now on kind of how we at FMS are looking at some of that research, trying to continue to evolve and improve what we're doing. And I think at this point, again, research is looking at specific, that's what researchers have to do. That's what the guys in the lab and these PhDs, these smart guys really have to do is they have to take something and ask a question. So if we're talking about the movement screen, where there's so much research out there on the movement screen that you have to be in order to really be able to answer the questions, you have to be somewhat, very specific. And let's be honest, the movement screen is an easy thing to research. So we want to know, does it predict injury? Does it have a relationship to injuries? Does it have a relationship to your power? Does it do this or that? That's great. I want all that stuff to happen, and that only makes us better when we even read some of that stuff. I think the problem may come in is when people look at some of that research and you don't really have a good understanding of what the objective of the FMS was originally intended to do. And I think that's where as one of the FMS guys, has to always do a good job of just explaining, going back to the fundamentals of what we're trying to do with the movement screen, and that's really with exercise selection. But what some of that research, and really right now with us, looking at all the data that we've been collecting over the last 15 to 20 years, we've got a lot of movement screen data that we're now mining. And it's allowing us, again, with looking at that data, based off what some of the research is telling us now, it's allowing us to increase and improve our entire system. The one thing we always want to try to get across to people, the FMS is not just the screen. It's a system. We're trying to continue to make our system better. And if you've been following some of what we do, we've added, we actually modified. We have a modified version of the FMS now, the movement screen, based off data and feedback. We're able to say if certain situations, whether it may be a younger population or an older population, you may not feel comfortable taking a person through an entire 7-test movement screen. So we got feedback, and actually, some of the people in the profession, personal training world say, some of these tests are a little bit too difficult. We don't feel comfortable getting some of our clients on the floor, as an example. So we took that and said, we don't want to have barriers to looking at movement. So if we got some barriers there, let's figure out a way around that. So by modifying the FMS, we basically compared it to the full FMS and said, which test get us close, knowing that we need to remove certain things because they may be a little bit tough for older populations, as an example. And we came up with a modified version, and we can feel like we're about 85% there, meaning we can point you pretty close to what a full FMS would do. And basically what we did is we have the squat, we have shoulder, leg raise, with a forward reach, which is taken from the wide balance, anterior reach, and ankle mobility. And by us doing those, we can get you pretty close. So that's looking at data and trying to continue to improve our process, but also looking at the wide balance test and just honing in on both what ankle mobility and the forward reach, which comprises our motor control screen. So again, we know the movement screen is not going to get us all the information. It's not really designed to. It's designed to kind of point you in a certain direction. But now with all the data we have, we know ankle mobility is extremely important. So we have now a validated and reliable ankle mobility test. And some of the data that we're getting back from that in certain populations is really giving us some great information. Looking at the forward reach, we've got a ton of data, hundreds of research studies on the wide balance test. So the wide balance test, as many of you know that may use it, it takes a little time, but the forward reach, just that anterior reach, tells us a lot. So we're using that, again, as a screen, as something that you can add in or start doing that gives you great feedback. So we're able to use that data and that information. And just mining a lot of that data allows us to determine what's some things we need to be looking at in certain populations. So we know, as an example, your shoulder mobility, if that's bad, then your grip strength is bad. And again, looking at all the data based off grip strength, longevity, health problems, strength, all relate to grip strength. Now we can say, if your shoulder mobility is poor, your grip strength is more than likely going to be poor. So those are the types of things we're looking at, and not just honed in on research, but think about this. We're trying to now look at trends. What do the trends tell us? What are certain populations? How do they move versus other populations? One of the things that we started looking at and we like to think general population when we look at our database of movement screens, but that's not necessarily the general population. The general population, or most people, don't go to a gym and work out. So our database tells us now over, hundreds of thousands of pieces of data that average movement screen scores are around 14. And again, the composite score only tells us a little bit about how the person's moving, but generally speaking, that gives me an idea. And here's where I'm going with this. Now, those people going and getting these movement screens, these people we're looking at, I don't believe represent the general population, because the people that are getting screened that are part of our database are going to work out. They're athletes. They're coming into the gym. They're getting screened by professionals. And most people aren't going in to work out. They're not going to seek out a professional. They maybe go to the gym, they maybe work out, but you know what? They may not even work out at all. So what we're also doing now is we're working with a lot of occupational areas. And some of these occupational areas, and looking at their data, looking at their movement screen scores, are significantly less or worse, if you will, than what the screen data tells us. So for example, working with a group, and these are thousands of movement screen scores. So we're not just talking about, at a research study where they may have 30 people in their study. We're talking thousands. And that's where we're talking about trends. What do the trends tell us? And we see that a lot of these occupational guys are scoring like 10, 9, and 10 on the movement screen, whereas a lot of our database, the number's 14. So that tells us, you know what? That's what they score. That's fine. That's quote unquote average. Not that I want that to be normal, but that's where they are. So that tells me, you know what? Movement in more of the general population is really not that great. So we have to think about that. So that gives you a little bit of insight of how we're looking at our data now. It's helping us design more tests. It's allowing us to get more trends and tell us and start figuring out what matters in certain groups may matter more. The occupational world, we know ankle mobility is a huge thing that we have to be looking at because it relates to people missing more work and more injuries. So ankle mobility is telling us a lot about these populations. So there's a lot of things we're starting to look at that may be a little bit different than just normal research. We're looking at the data and looking at trends because we want to take more of a long-term epidemiological approach with movement. And that's a pretty ambitious statement, but that's where we're trying to go with it. And I think as we continue to evolve, adding new tests in, taking tests away that matter, even looking at certain populations, trying to be a little bit, smarter about how we're looking at movement and screening you. Hopefully a couple of years from now, we may be able to get it down to a few different tests based off certain data that we have, based off maybe your age, your sport, your occupation. Hey, this is the tests that matter. These tests over here don't. That's kind of where we're trying to go with movement screening and FMS. So again, hope that gave you a little bit more insight on where things are going. Thank you so much for tuning in. Again, a lot more information on functionalmovement.com. Again, I'm Lee Burton. If you have anything, shoot us an email on our website. Thank you so much for joining.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Business of Fitness segment here on the Strength Coach podcast. My name is Alwyn Cosgrove from resultsfitnessuniversity.com, and today we're going to talk about heading into the final quarter of the year. October, it's just like playing football, right? We play all 4 quarters for business. So heading into the final quarter of the year, what's the game plan? Right? It's traditionally a little slower in fitness. Obviously New Year's is hot for us. We find September always is a big month after back to school. But as we head into the final quarter of 2018, how are you going to finish the year? And part of this is just about planning ahead to be proactive with your business rather than saying, let's see what happens in October and having to react to it. So just some questions to ask yourself to really get the ball rolling and think about this. And this can be a little challenging the first time you're doing this, but once you write out this type of game plan, you can execute it again Q4 next year, right? So what is your gross revenue goal for your business for 2018? And are you on track with that as we head into the last quarter? And so what I like to do with that is I put a realistic goal, and the other one is a BHAG. And I can't remember where I got that term from, but BHAG is a big, hairy, audacious goal, like one that will blow it out the water. And I like to always have those 2 numbers to look at. How many clients will you plan on having by the end of the year? How many more are you going to get? Could you call 5 former clients a week, right? And that would be 60 former clients before the end of the year. Maybe we could do a promotion that, hey, if you join for a year and for 2019, December's free. You can train with us for free in December. What promotions do you have planned for October, November, December? You have to have a reason for people to contact you, something to tip them over the edge. So here's a couple of ideas. Thanksgiving food drive, maybe some type of a charity workout where people could bring in a non-perishable food item, and then they get a workout, and you give the food to the local food pantry or soup kitchen, or maybe it's a $20 workout and you give all the money to the local shelter. What about a Black Friday promotion where people can maybe buy 2 supplements, get 1 free? If they buy a gift certificate for a friend, a 30-day membership for a friend for Christmas, you give them another 30-day membership for another friend free, right? Black Friday is always a big day. Gift certificates for the holidays. We do one, and Rachel talked about it in the last episode. We do the 100 workout challenge starting in July, halfway through the year. 50 workout challenge starts October. And we also do one over the holidays, starting mid-November through to mid-January. We call it the Holiday Hold'em Challenge, where you do a body comp before it, and you get different points for how many classes you take, how many nutrition shakes you take, and so on. And our goal is to maintain over the holidays, not to gain body fat and get in worse shape. But the other thing to do is that we have to have an action step for the facility itself. So are there any updates that you need to make to the gym before heading into 2019? Any pieces of equipment that you'd like to add? Any new changes to your programming going forward? So November and December are just great times to just even, get your floors deep cleaned, paint the walls, new signage, a new logo. And a fun thing that we've done is if we get a new piece of equipment, we wrap it up. And we put it in the middle of the gym, all wrapped up in Christmas paper in a bowl, and it's a tag to the members from Santa, right? Which is a pretty cool thing. Is that we used to give all our members like little gifts at Christmas time. But as your membership grow, like this, I can't give everybody a $75 embroidered jacket when I've got 300 plus members, right? And I've done that before when I had like 10 members. But we give them a little gift, and then maybe we'd get something cool for the gym for them to use. So just a bunch of ideas. Sit down right now for the final quarter, plan out your marketing, and start thinking about what we're going to do the last 90 days. We still got time to make some plays, right? And it's just about us planning it out. So that's it for this episode, guys. Follow up with me in the business forum at strengthcoach.com, or hit me up through any of our social media at Results Fitness University, or directly to me, Alan Cosgrove.
All right, now it's time. It's kind of a time for a special segment. We were going to do this as a special episode, but I really wanted to get him as part of the show because I do feel like people really need to understand the importance of what we're going to talk about, and that is online training. I have Ben Crookston he's the CEO and founder of TrainHeroic, who is sponsoring their own segment on the show now, but I wanted to get them on the Hit the Gym with the Strength Coach segment to kind of really go a little bit deeper and to try to convince people that online training is really, if you're not doing it, you're missing out on a big opportunity. So Ben, thanks for doing this.
Thank you, Anthony.
All right. Well, I want to just start out. I truly believe, people who have been listening to the podcast for a long time know that, we've had obviously this is a podcast that I started for strengthcoach.com, and we've had Athletes Performance, Exos as a sponsor and with a segment, and Functional Movement Systems, who are still on Results Fitness University. People that I truly believe in. MariGold Bars is now the Hit the Gym with the Strength Coach segment. I have one every day. I use TrainHeroic. That's why I love that that you guys have your own segment on the show. But I really, to me, it's important. My mission is to help people, trainers, become more successful. And one of the things that I feel like we're getting so much turnover in this industry is flat out is finances. We all love what we're doing. We're helping people, blah, blah, blah. Of course, that's important, but we gotta put food on the table. And there's a huge opportunity here, and you guys are doing such a great job with this on a few different levels. So tell us, how did this whole thing start for you, being one of the founders of TrainHeroic? How did this whole thing start?
First of all, Anthony, I just really appreciate the kind words, and we're flattered to be involved and support you first and foremost, and then the podcast by extension. But really, kind of going back in terms of the origin tale with TrainHeroic, we never started as a technology company, right? Like Josh and I, Josh Schucher, my co-founder, we were not technology people. We were people who saw a problem, wanted to create a solution, and we recognized at a certain point that solution was technology. And so kind of going back to the baseline, which was really, I was a low-income high school teacher, right? Prior to that, Josh and I played college football together at the University of San Diego, right under Jim Harbaugh. And we were really fortunate to be exposed to world-class training. We had great strength coaches. Shannon Turley was a couple times strength coach of the year now at Stanford. Stefan Roche, now at UCLA, who's done also a lot of work in the CrossFit community. So these guys were kind of big influences on us, and really, I think, took what were, frankly, a couple mediocre athletes and turned them into something that was, pretty good. And I think through that, we saw that training was something bigger. It wasn't just being in the gym, but really we recognized that training is a platform for human development, and really a tool to kind of unlock character. And so I think when I became a teacher and stepped into that arena, I started to see, man, I'm working here. The kids are engaged, sort of. I could come up with the best lesson plan possible, whatever. And I was an English teacher. But really, what I recognized was that while there was a gap, certainly in the classroom, the bigger gap was in mindset and in the ability and the belief to kind of buy into, hey, if I'm going to work hard here, something's going to come out as a result. And so I started taking kids down to the gym. A place where I learned and I somewhat honed that mindset personally and exposed them to the same tools. And through that, I was like, hey, maybe this physical realm, America's really driven on the kind of like this whole mental side of things. Everything's very intellectualized. Everything's now working in office, sit at a desk, do this. And so we really were stripping PE out of school, all this, but I was seeing that this physical connection actually enabled a mindset that proliferated into the rest of the students' lives. And so I was like, there's something here. And that's kind of the seeds of it, as random as that sounds. But moreover, I was teaching, and I, worked with effectively 120 kids. And for me, I just said, man, I wish we could have a bigger impact. I wish we could do this for 1 million kids. And that was really just kind of the forcing factor. How do we bring world-class strength and conditioning? How do we bring this experience of training, which fundamentally reveals the self, down to everybody that we could possibly influence? It really started there with young athletes. But then, flash forward a year, I leave teaching. I start coaching just in a commercial gym. And from there, I started working with private clientele. And I recognized that they saw the same problems, or they faced the same problems. And so once we started to do that, I'm like, well, if we built a tool for one arena, which was kind of this youth athlete high school, and then we brought that into this other arena, which was adult athletes or kind of like Gen Pop, there's a lot of just carryover. The same methods applied to two different arenas, but the common element is people. And that's what we were developing. So, we were fortunate enough to get people to believe in us, to invest in us, and kind of just jump on early. And we just try to start solving problems. We learned as we go. And really, I think the backbone, the thread that binds it all together is TrainHeroic's mission is to help people be their best. And that's the simple thing. Technology is certainly one way we do that. But we view TrainHeroic to be a platform, a thing that lifts people up, a thing that people can stand on to elevate their potential and realize kind of exactly, their purpose here on earth. So it might sound a little broad, a little ethereal, a little out there, maybe a little touchy-feely, but that's kind of the true story behind it.
Yeah, and I think here's part of, and no, I'm glad you said that, because I think what happens is a lot of us have that feeling. We want to have an impact, and then we do some training. We want to impact more people, and then want to impact more people. But how do you create, like you were talking about, that experience, right? But how that's also an objection for people, or maybe just an excuse for them not to get into it. But it was really an objection, like, okay, look, if Ben's going to come see me, I need to tailor my program, and I need to be there. I need to watch him. That's a huge, huge excuse / objection. What do you say to that, and how are you creating this experience?
Yeah, as it relates to online training, I guess I don't reject that objection. We're not here to replace humans, right? We're definitely not here to decrease human interaction. I think the great irony of all this is, like, to that end, I'm actually kind of allergic to a lot of what technology tends to do. because oftentimes it compartmentalizes and kind of brings people apart when it should be something that's used to bring people together. So we don't look to replace a coach. We look to amplify coaching. And we also recognize that both for the coach and the athlete, natural limitations apply, which is to say, for a coach, time can be a very significant limiting factor, right? Especially as it relates to, like you said, hey, coaching is a passion business. People get in this for the right reason. They got a purpose. They want to make significant change and impact people in a real way. But then there is a reality. You got to put food on the table. You got to be able to make money. You got to make sense out of it. And beyond that, there's this kind of like squishy thing that nobody really likes to talk about, but coaches burn out a lot just on the basis of energy. Yeah. You know, it is hugely demanding to be on the floor 8 hours a day and to be working face to face with athletes all of the time. And so in that way, how can you create a diversity of coaching and maybe take a new perspective to it where it's like, look, the way I look at it is there's a spectrum, right? Face-to-face is always going to be the very best. One-to-one interaction is always going to be the very best. Not everybody can afford that, neither the coach nor the athlete, both from an economic and from a time perspective. It's a simple function of resource constraint, right? The next best thing might be one-to-one online personal coaching, right? Where it's like, hey, I'm going to write a custom program for you. I'm going to deliver that to you. We're going to communicate. I'm going to still try to provide, again, a three-dimensional coaching experience. And really that's what TrainHeroic's seeks to provide is, hey, we want to create the perception, the feeling of high touch for the athlete. Like, wow, this coach really cares about me. Wow, this coach really recognizes what I'm doing. Why? Because they can see your results. Why? Because they're seeing your comments. They're giving you fist bumps. They're kind of keeping you motivated, right? There's two parts of coaching, right? There's the actual training, right? Putting together a program, doing needs analysis, doing all the nuts and bolts of it. But then there's a real big thing, just keeping somebody engaged, keeping them motivated. Because what we know about real training is that's a long journey. And for you to be successful in that journey, you need to be bought in. You need to have the gas in your tank to just keep on going. And so we're trying to create the tooling to provide that experience, whether you're face-to-face, remote, or even just giving somebody a program and letting them go on that journey mostly by themselves. There's kind of those three tiers. It's like, hey, are we going to be in face-to-face? That's going to be significant cost to both of us. If we're going to be distant and we're going to check in every once in a while, is less cost on both sides, understandably, but there's also potentially less value. It can't be as good. Can't be there for everything, but I'll see everything. And then there's the last, which is, let me just give you a program and it's better than nothing. It's sure going to be good, but it might not be perfectly tailored to you. And I might not be able to be there every moment along the way. Understandably, that should be less cost for both the coach and for the athlete. So what we try to do is basically create an ecosystem in which we can meet both sides of that equation every step along the way and say, hey, wherever you're at, that's fine. Whatever you can provide, that's fine. We're here for you so you can be your best at that state.
Yeah, I love it. And again, I think personally, a lot of times those are excuses with some people because they feel like, well, I'm not going to know their form. Well, you know what? Look at the popularity of things like, P90X or like some of these online, DVD programs, right? They were so popular. They're doing it. There's a demand there. And I think Alan Cosgrove always used to say, like, just try to listen to the questions that people have. Because, when you start to hear the same questions, there's a need, obviously. And people want this. For me, personally, I used to do this about 10 years ago. I would set up a web page for people with my own videos. So when they would come in, because I live in a kind of a very affluent area where a lot of people have gyms in their houses. And they would come to me and they just wanted a program. And I thought, man, I'm turning down this money. Like, oh, no, you have to come here. or what am I going to do? Give them a piece of paper? And I didn't want to do that either. So I came up with this little 6-pack where they would come in and I would write a program for them and I would teach them how to do everything. And then they would get a web page with, some of the videos and the program. But it was so bulky and people couldn't do it on their phone at the time. It was 10 years ago. And it was just hard. It was like people just didn't really comply with it as much. But they loved the idea. People bought the idea for me and it gave me another revenue stream. So, I think there's a lot of different ways where, and that's why I love the way you guys have covered this. Like, hey, I personally I use Train Heroic this way. I sold my gym, but I train my clients once a week, 6 or 7 or 8 guys on Wednesdays. And so I told them, look, go join another gym for the other days because I don't own this gym anymore. But you can, a couple guys do home workouts, a couple guys go to New York Sports Club, and what I did was I set them up on the app. So when they come in, they're still using the app on Wednesdays. They're looking at their program because I set it up already. It's like instead of a clipboard, they're using the app, and I'm coaching them. And I'm making sure, and they're asking questions because they tried stuff at home or they tried stuff at their own gym that I gave them for the, let's say, Monday and Friday. But I'm there for them. And so it's been a great, value add for my clients. It's been a great way for me to kind of keep my guys, keep in touch with them, keep them training, still be able to come to me once a week. So like you said, there's no cost from that. That cost is less. And that cost for me was time. I didn't want to spend that time. So now, hey guys, here's your program. When you come in, you can ask the questions. I'm going to coach you. I'm going to make sure your deadlifts are okay. We're going to use some equipment here that you might not use. So for me, it's a value add. Then, like you said, then there's the online piece. You could do, kind of train people through the app and have some contacts with them, or you can give them a program. Hey, here's a 3-month program, off-season golf program, and here you go. It's $25, or and you guys have some other services, and we'll talk about them. But I agree. I think you've covered all of those bases. And what about the objection? I want to kind of go into objections right now. Is people will be like, "Well, I'm not that technical," or I don't have the videos. What would you say to that?
Yeah, totally. And I think there's kind of even broader objections, right? That are maybe more mindset oriented, or I think in a lot of ways, technology can give us kind of this weird feeling where it's like, oh yeah, I really get it, but maybe it's threatening. And I think specifically as we experience it, there's this perception that technology is both kind of complicated and potentially expensive. And similarly, like the way that we approach things is kind of from a performance side, right? And from that end, like performance data-driven coaching is also maybe complicated and expensive. And so implicitly to that, Train Heroic is by extension complicated and potentially expensive. And I think like to that end, that's our singular focus, is how do we kind of go on our mission to basically take high performance and take technology out of its ivory tower, democratize it, and give it to the masses. Well, what does that require? It has to be easier. It has to be more affordable, and it has to be somewhat enjoyable, frankly, because like we're not in this game just to make money. We're in this game to make an impact. And the same way that coaches want to create engagement and a fun experience for their athletes so they're bought in, we want to do that for coaches. We don't want you sitting at your computer and having a miserable time. We're like, how could this be done easier? What would this look like if it was, simple? And how could we actually inject a little fun and joy into this? And so both the way our people approach it, our products approach it, any education we provide approach it, that's kind of how we look at it, is like, how do we take performance to the people? How do we take technology to the people and not ask them to come up to technology?
Yeah, and talk about ease of use. I mean, you don't know my demographic, but I worked with golfers, and so it was my demographic was basically 55 to I had 84. Okay, so they all have gotten this really easily. Just turn the phone on or whatever. The only time The good excuse for me, sometimes they're saying, it didn't come up the other day on Friday, and they're thinking it didn't really, wasn't on Wi-Fi or wasn't loading, and they just blame the app. And it was really me because I didn't put the program in, but I just say, oh yeah, it's probably the Wi-Fi. So it's a good way to excuse, especially with the old. You got a built-in excuse there with the old guys. So
I've had that same exact thing. I trained my fiance's father, who's 75. Same deal, just doing really, really basic stuff. And he's remote. And I'd write his program and I'd give him like 4 weeks at a time and I'd check in on him and do whatever. But I mean, I'm a pretty busy guy. So sometimes I'm not paying attention to it and I have to go check. Oh, there's a notification. I got to go check it out, whatever. And then he would send in support tickets to our support team all the time, being like, I have no more training. The app is broken. And I'm like, the app's not broken. Your coach is broken. Your coach is terrible. You should consider firing him. And that was so. But like that being said, I think it's a great point you make, Anthony, which is anybody can do this. My fiance's father, like he's not tech savvy. He's 75 years old, but he was one of the most compliant athletes I've ever had. He had no problems whatsoever with the technology. If he found it very accessible, and it was a fun way for us to frankly stay connected. We enjoyed doing that, and it was a great way to build our relationship together.
Absolutely. Well, let's go into a little bit of the different kind of segments. Like, this is the Strength Coach podcast, and how, just give us an idea about how strength coaches are using it in like a college setting and with a lot of players. How are they using it? What are maybe some best practices?
Cool. Yeah, great question. So, simply stated, our value to coaches is really to coach more athletes better, right? So Train Heroic, we believe, helps scale and improve your coaching practice so that you can really make a bigger impact on more athletes than you've ever imagined. And to that end, we realize that like there's both people who coach in a personal coaching one-to-one setting, but then there's also people who coach in kind of this one-to-many setting, whether it's collegiate teams, professional teams. We work with a lot of tactical athletes in the special forces community. And then number one, we work with a ton of private facilities, whether it's a sports performance, CrossFit, weightlifting, powerlifting, whatever. And within a lot of those spaces, we work to, again, create that bond between the coach and the athlete, make that easier, right? And so what does that look like? And coaching kind of in that more athlete setting or, hey, one-to-many inside a facility, you have a lot of jobs, one of which is coordinating large team and group sessions in a facility, right? Another is kind of bulk data entry. Another is referencing lots of data across a ton of athletes. And then lastly, you got to be able to communicate efficiently across all those athletes. And so how do we do that? Those are all kind of the jobs that you got to be able to do, but we just align features to them. And so we allow you to obviously program very efficiently, get that out and publish in one click. Within a facility, a couple of our big ones, we have a big screen whiteboard and leaderboard, so you can project that onto a TV. It looks gorgeous. It makes your facility look awesome, but it also creates engagement. It's a centralized place where you can bring the entire group together and talk about, hey, here's our mission today in training. And then once they get after it, they can actually log their results on iPads or on their phones. And then all those results will immediately populate on a big screen leaderboard that could be run on another TV. And so it creates kind of this immersive experience that's in the context of the modern day athlete that also gives you all the data back so that you can reference all that data and consume it easily in our analytics. So we try to, again, make that kind of three-dimensional. And we looked at it, we said, hey, we see coaches in those facilities. It used to be just, okay, I got to print all these Excel sheets and I got to put them on these folders and then I got to organize those folders. And then there's all these papers that are inevitably always on the ground and the results never got recorded. And then presumably I need to take those results and then punch them into Excel again. And I got all this monkey work to do. And we're like, well, can we take the monkey out of the middle? Can we just get the results entered by the athletes or on the floor by the coach themselves? And then they're just synced to the cloud so that all of that rekeying is gone. And I think like at the end of the day, we realize and we believe that the most sacred thing of coaching is the coach-athlete interaction. And that's deep focus and attention. And it's like, rather than spending time, here's the ironic piece. We don't want you sitting on your computer 1 million hours a day. We don't want your athletes sitting on their phones 1 million hours a day. Most technology companies, one of the primary KPIs or key performance indicators they measure their products by is how much time do people spend in this thing? You look at Facebook and Instagram, and like a lot of their business results are tied to the amount of time you spend on their app. And we're like, yeah, that works for them because that's their business model. Effectively, their monetization is your attention. So you need to be logged in a lot because they're going to show you a bunch of ads. But we charge a fee. So because of that, we're like, how fast can we help you do this job? How little can you spend time in our technology? Can we make you program faster? Can we make you do less monkey work? Can your athletes just log their stuff really quick and get out of there? And so there's kind of this ironic piece where we want you to use TrainHeroic and love TrainHeroic, but we don't want you to sit on it all day long. We want you to get in, get out, and spend more time doing what you love. Connect with your athletes, pour into the relationship side of things, because that's really what grows your business.
Yeah. And also from the athlete's perspective or the client's perspective, like when I log in, if I'm going to do a workout on TrainHeroic app, the first thing it's going to say is, and you know, this is another thing. Everyone's like, well, I don't, you know, what am I going to, if I'm going to do the readiness stuff, like, so there's 5 questions, you know, how's your sleep based on 1 to 5, sleep, your mood, your energy, your soreness, right? So it gives you a readiness score, right? Tells you that person. And it's not this long draw. It's like there's these big numbers. You just press the number. The athlete or client is going to press the number. Then when they go through the workout, at the end of the workout, it's going to ask them for intensity. So when I see that, I know I have, you know, a young man who I basically train, and he'll always do the intensities on the home workouts and on that when he goes to the gym. And I'm like, oh boy, I got to pick that up a little bit. You know, he's not really getting much out of this. So I love that it's pretty easy for him to do. And it's not this kind of extra button as well. Like, okay, hey, did you put your intensity? Oh, I forgot to do that. No, it puts it up right when they log in for that session. So I think from that perspective too, you guys have made it super easy. And especially for an old guy like me who needs the big letters and numbers, man. Super easy.
Yeah, and I think, like, honestly, that is a reflection of our team. You know, like, Josh and I started this thing, but our teammates are the ones who build the thing. And frankly, we've been just blown away by how fortunate we are to be surrounded by continually more talented people who are just bought into this thing. And a feature like that, you know, I love seeing them geek out about it. And the thing is, it's all the psychological element. It's, hey, let's put one question on the page with really big buttons so they can actually spend a second of time reflecting on it. If we put all the questions on the page at the same time, they'll be overwhelmed, or they'll just race through them really quick and just get it done with. But if they get one at a time, they actually have to, how did I sleep last night? How do I feel right now? And because they're doing that, we're trying to create intention in the training. And then, you know, in doing so, we then get better data to the coach. The coach has that data. They can say, oh, wow, that's actually outside of your norm. Let's talk about that. What's going on in your life? And so it's like, sure, we can talk about sports science, we can talk about all that, but it's using data to create insights. And the insights are the thing that drives the intervention. And the intervention is the thing that creates the intimacy and the bond of the relationship. And so that is kind of the focus of all those things. And, you know, it's certainly exciting, I think, where things are at, but where that's going and the team that's behind that right now, I couldn't be more excited for the future of what our clients are about to receive.
Yeah, and like I said, I truly believe, I mean, everybody listening out there, you need to just, I mean, you have TrainHeroic has a 2-week free trial, and during that free trial, you get a phone call.
You might get a bunch of phone calls.
Yeah, you get I got a couple because I needed a couple. But it's also a Zoom call, so you're on the screen looking at what's going on, and so you can play with that. But for me, I just think it's so important because of the fact, that, okay, we got a value add with current clients. We have another way to, Rachel Cosgrove was on the Strength Coach podcast segment, the Results Fitness University segment, for 3 episodes. She did how to add more money, right, to your business. And she said there's 3 ways. You can add more clients, you can get your current clients to spend more often, or you can get your current clients to spend more. And TrainHeroic and online training really checks all three of those boxes, because now you have another service you can offer. You like, hey, you just want a 3-month program, your experience? Hey, here's your 3-month program. Here's your 1-month program. Whatever it may be, you can tailor it. Boom, here you can sell it through TrainHeroic. It's pretty simple. Or you can get them to spend more often. Like maybe they want a travel program. Maybe they want, different warm-ups. Maybe they want, I don't know, whatever it may be. Somebody comes in. Maybe somebody wants a program. They're training for a specific event. So you can get them to spend more often, and then obviously get them to spend more, which is my favorite one. I think it's like being in the restaurant business for so long, check average, increase check average. So, and one of the, you guys cover that through either it's just that, people who are coming in, they can use it, or you can set up a program for somebody and have, a little bit of touch, or you can give them that program where you're not really going to have any touch. So I think it's super important for everybody really to just try this. And, if you have any problems, you guys are there along the way to help everybody.
Yeah, I appreciate you reiterating that last point, Anthony, because, man, that's the most important piece to us. Like, if it hasn't been clear to date, there's anything I've learned in business, it's from my dad. And he's always told me from day one, Ben, it's all about the people. And I was like, yeah, whatever you say, Dad. Didn't really think about what that means. And the longer I'm in this thing, the more I see and truly understand that. And I think the way we approach that with, we call our customers members because we view them to be members of our family. And the experience that we provide, here's what I'll say in full candor early on. Our software sucked. It was terrible. Mm-hmm. It was terrible. Like Josh and I were not technology people. We had hacked that thing together. And to that end, we were like, well, how do we cover all the deficits in what we have? We were like, well, we know we can work really hard and we know we can treat people really well. And so the backbone of TrainHeroic has always been service. And we take a servant leadership perspective to everything we do. And first and foremost, that's to how we embrace new members of the family. And you're not a member of our family once you pay us $1. You're a member of our family the second you believe what we believe and the second you start to interact with us. So you mentioned that free trial, that 14 days. We're like, look, come in here and kick this thing around. Kick a bunch of things around. Try other things. It's up to you. We want you to make the best decision possible. And we're here to inform your decision, and we're here to train you on how to use this in the most optimal way. We are not here to sell you. We are not here to shove software into places it doesn't belong. We're here to connect. We're here to work on our mission, and we're looking for people who believe the same things that we believe. And so I think through that end, it's like what you can expect with TrainHeroic is a continually improving product. But most importantly, you will expect world-class people that treat you the right way, the way you deserve to be treated. And if you got a problem with anything, whether it's the software, your life, your coaching, call us. We're going to be there for you.
Absolutely. Good stuff. Well, let's finish up right now with just I'm coming to you. Let's say we grew up together. I'm a trainer, and I just say, hey, Ben, Ben, I'm gonna start online training. Give me the shortcuts. Tell me, not shortcuts so much, but tell me what you want somebody to do, how you want somebody to go about this who isn't gonna maybe like I want to learn from your mistakes, and what are some best practices for online trainers, and maybe some of the things you see out there that people are doing and why maybe they fail or they don't this thing doesn't work for them.
Totally. So I would say first and foremost, online training, you almost want to just throw out the word online, right? You almost want to throw out this idea that this is remote or with technology or anything. And you want to focus first and foremost on what is good coaching? What does that look like? And good coaching looks like, a great needs analysis. It looks like starting with, what somebody's actual goals are, because here's the spirit of coaching. You want to take somebody from where they are today, which is a place they're inherently comfortable, and then you want to get them to a place they've never been before. You are their guide. You are their mentor, their shepherd, their, master on that journey. And so I think through that lens, you got to really understand where they're at, how they got there, performance needs analysis to totally get that. But then from there, we want to do the same thing. We want to be sure giving them a program. But the number one mistake I see with online training is this belief that like, oh, I gave you a program and it's probably magical. So I guess I can stop there and just let you do it. You would never do that in person. You would never just say, here's the session. I'm going to put it on the board and then I'm going to go to the bathroom forever. You wouldn't do that. You would watch them. You would see how it's being performed. And you would be checking in, you'd be providing cues, you'd be giving them just enough attention, not too much to overwhelm them. And then you would just continually, keep increasing the challenge so that they progress in the right manner. Online training, same thing. And now you just have to say, well, what does that look like in an online format? And it looks like, hey, send them the training, but tee it up. Let them understand why they're doing what they're doing. Let them understand how this cycle is different than the last cycle, what the intent is, how it's going to be feeling, what they should expect, and then encourage them to go on their journey. And then as they're doing it, when they're logging their sessions and you're seeing their results, recognize them. Let them know they're seen. When they're not, let them know they're seen. Hey, saw you didn't do your session. What's going on? Everything all right? Oh, no, actually, this other thing's going on in my life. And so, again, it's all the same thing. We're just creating the conduit and the tools for doing that. So how do you see what they're doing? Well, you can check their calendar. You can see all the results of an individual session there. You can run a compliance report. You can see how adherent to their program they've been over a longer period of time. You can check in on benchmark progress. You can look at their daily training. You can look at their readiness. All these things together give you a picture for what that performance is looking like. And all of those are just cues for you to engage in a conversation. And to do that, you can use our feeds. You can comment on sessions directly, all of which will be pushed through notifications back to your athlete. And again, the whole goal is just like, how do you engage these people? And if you take that perspective of three-dimensional coaching, a holistic practice versus just set it and forget it programming, where everybody thinks they got the special sauce, it's like the program, what's the old adage? It's like the best program is the one your athletes will actually do.
Yeah.
Make sure they're doing it. Drive compliance, drive engagement. If you never take your eye off that ball, you're probably going to go a whole lot further than somebody who's just constantly worried about their Instagram.
Absolutely. Good stuff. And I agree completely. It's a little bit of touch. My favorite quote is, nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care. And that's really applies here, and a little bit of extra work. And one thing I would say too is, don't get over ambitious. Don't try to say, we're going to do 100 clients. I mean, unless this is the only thing you're doing, it's not passive income. That's where I think, the internet has ruined a lot of.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. It's not passive income. It's you're going to be working for this. You're still going to be touching people and talking to them and checking in. And again, you still have the other piece. You can still just kind of set those other programs up for some people that just want a program, maybe because there's not everybody out there does want that. This is a small population, but not everybody wants that. They just want the program. Hey, man, I'll check in with you. I want a new program. So, but I will say, you're crazy if you don't at least try this. It's a 2-week free trial. Ramp them up. They give you a bunch of calls. And if you decide to stay on and you say you heard, Ben and Anthony talking on the Train Coach podcast, they'll give you 10% off the Elite or Pro edition. So it's worth it. So Ben, thanks so much for coming on and talking all about your journey here and how we can make online training a little bit better.
Oh, thanks to you, Anthony. We really appreciate it. We appreciate you, man. We appreciate everybody you're serving and for frankly just moving the profession forward.
All right, well, that's going to do it for episode 240 of the Strength Coach Podcast. Remember, you can try strengthcoach.com out 3 days just $1. You'll have access to all the articles, videos, and programs, as well as the best forum on the net. It's the only place to have full access to Coach Boyle. He's on every day answering questions. To access that offer, go to strengthcoach.com, click the Join Now button to get started on your trial. Special thanks to Chris Parter and the folks over at Perform Better. Remember, free shipping on orders over $59 for a limited time, as well as the speaker schools coming up and the starter school at the Perform Better Functional Training Institute. Go to performbetter.com for all their products and info on their educational seminars. Thanks to Coach Boyle and Ben Crookston for sharing their insights and philosophies into the world of strength and conditioning and performance enhancement and online training. Head over to TrainHeroic.com and start your 14-day free trial. Let them know I sent you. You'll save 10% off the first year of the Train Heroic Pro or Elite Edition. Thanks to Alwyn Cosgrove for the Results Fitness University Business of Fitness segment. Check them out at resultsfitnessuniversity.com. Lee Burton and Functional Movement Systems. Check them out at functionalmovement.com. Thanks to my favorite protein bars, MariGold Bars. They also have snacks too. I should always mention that. High quality protein with all the premium ingredients, grass-fed protein, gluten-free, organic ingredients, non-GMO, no preservatives, low sugar, and they taste amazing. Check them out at marigoldbars.com. Use the code StrengthCoach10 to get $10 off your first order. My name's Anthony Renda. Go to continuefit.com for all of my stuff. Thanks again, and I'll speak to you next time.